Imagine being stranded in the ocean, surrounded by nothing but water. Seriously, what else did you expect? Suddenly, a massive storm slams into your ship and your legs start shaking like jelly. This is the moment you realize you might have chosen the wrong profession. See, storms are no joke. There's a reason sailors back then were basically legends. Whether it was Jörmungandr or some badass kraken, they had to fight against Mother Nature every day to make it back home alive. One moment, they could peacefully admire the view. The next, they were drowning in the ocean's depths or getting ripped apart by sharks. And honestly, things today aren't that different. Even with all our fancy new technology, the ocean still swallows up the souls of the unlucky. The 6 ships you're about to hear about got caught in some of the most brutal storms in recorded history. Some barely made it out alive. But the others? Well, let's just say luck wasn't on their side. Navy ship versus the Southern Ocean. At the end of 2015, the HMNZS Otago, a ship from the Royal New Zealand Navy, was battling one of the Southern Ocean's wildest storms. This region is infamous for being one of the most dangerous bodies of water on the planet, known for winds blasting at over 100 miles per hour, 160 kilometers per hour, and waves that can easily reach heights of 50 feet, 15 meters. That's pretty much the size of the Titan Aaron fought in Season 1. The ship was on a routine 3-week operation when everything went sideways. The sky turned black, and the world felt like it was ending. Then, some massive waves slammed into the ship like a freight train. The waves were so big that the crew couldn't see their deck through the chaos. They knew they were just one mistake away from death. They had to fight through freezing rain, thick fog, and towering waves, all at once. It was like the ocean had gone insane. Later, the captain described the experience as completely unpredictable, saying the storm instantly shifted from calm to complete chaos, with snow, ice, and fog constantly rolling in and out. For any normal person, that scene would have looked like something straight out of the Bible. But for these sailors, it was just another day at the office. Eventually, the storm eased up, and rays of sunshine finally broke through the clouds. Unfortunately, not every story has such a happy ending. The Lisan. On December 13, 1979, the Lisan, a massive Greek cargo ship, was caught in a brutal, unpredictable storm in the Aegean Sea. With 35 crew members on board, the ship was going from Thessaloniki to Istanbul, unaware that one of the deadliest storms in recent history was headed straight for them. The storm unleashed 90 miles per hour, 145 kilometers per hour, winds and waves towering up to 40 feet, 12 meters, violently tossing the Lisan around. Even though it was a relatively modern ship, the raw power of the storm completely overwhelmed it. In the ship's final radio communications, reports say the crew desperately tried to keep the vessel afloat as it began taking on water. As the storm intensified, the engine room flooded. Eventually, they lost all communications, and the Lisan drifted helplessly into one of the most isolated parts of the sea. Time was critical. Every passing second could mean the difference between survival and death. Sadly, the Lisan had already sunk by the time rescue teams made it to the last reported location. Not a single one of the 35 crew members survived. These brave souls fought until the very end. But what happened during those final moments remains a mystery. The Viking Sky. In March 2019, the Viking Sky, a luxury cruise ship, was sailing off the coast of Norway. Like most cruise ships, it was packed with passengers who had no real experience with the dangers of the open ocean. And believe me, that matters a lot. It's one thing to have a crew full of experienced sailors. It's a whole other nightmare trying to keep hundreds of clueless tourists from panicking or accidentally getting themselves killed. Everything was going smoothly until disaster struck. The $450 million ship suffered a catastrophic engine failure right as a violent storm rolled in. With 1,373 passengers on board, it was tossed around by 26-foot, 8-meter waves battering it from every side. The crew had absolutely no control over where they were drifting. Without any power, they couldn't maneuver. Inside, it was pure mayhem. Massive waves slammed into the hull. The furniture went flying. Passengers were getting tossed around like rag dolls. There was no safe place to hide, no calm spot to cling to. Meanwhile, the Viking Sky was being pushed closer and closer to the jagged cliffs of Norway's coastline, and there wasn't a damn thing anyone could do to stop it. At one point, the communication systems went down. It seemed like there was no way out. However, in one of the most dramatic rescue operations in recent history, Coast Guard helicopters arrived and began lifting passengers off one by one. Miraculously, no one died, though 16 people were taken to the hospital. After a few days of repairs, the Viking Sky was back in service. And let's just say, many of those passengers probably swore they'd never step foot on a ship again. The SS Edmund Fitzgerald. On November 10, 1975, Lake Superior decided it had had enough of being a calm, peaceful lake. That day, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald, a giant freighter loaded with iron ore, tried to cross it like any other day. Spoiler alert, it didn't end well. The storm kept growing and growing. Waves towered over 23 feet, 7 meters, about the height of a 2-story house, crashing down like walls of water. And the wind! It was screaming at nearly 60 miles per hour. 100 kilometers per hour, strong enough to tear trees out by the roots and slam doors right off their hinges. In charge was Captain Ernest McSorley, a seasoned sailor who used to ride out fierce storms. But that night was different. You could practically smell the fear in the air. The waves hammered the Fitzgerald relentlessly. They tried calling for help, but by the time they did, it was too late. Just 17 miles, 27 kilometers from shore, so heartbreakingly close, the Fitzgerald vanished beneath the waves. All 29 crew members were lost. When search teams finally found the wreckage 2 weeks later, the ship was split clean in half, like it was nothing more than a toy boat. The Andrea Doria. The Andrea Doria, a luxurious Italian ocean liner, was famous for its elegance and speed. But in 1956, a tragic event would forever etch its name into maritime history. On July 25th, the Andrea Doria was headed toward New York when it collided with MS Stockholm, a Swedish passenger ship, in heavy fog off the coast of Nantucket, Massachusetts. The impact was brutal. Passengers were violently thrown around, and everything not bolted down went flying. But the collision was only the beginning of their nightmare. You see, while passengers were busy trying to regain their balance, something even worse was happening below the surface. The Andrea Doria had started taking on water, fast. The crew did everything they could to control the flooding. And just when things seemed things couldn't get worse, a violent storm rolled in, hammering the damaged ship even harder. Rescue operations were launched immediately, but the rough seas and brutal winds made it almost impossible for lifeboats to get close. The clock was ticking. Every second mattered. Amid the chaos and the screams echoing down the flooded hallways, rescuers managed to save 1,660 of the 1,706 people on board. But tragically, 46 lives were lost that day. The perfect storm. In October 1991, the Andrea Gale, a fishing boat from Gloucester, Massachusetts, ventured into the North Atlantic. They had no way of knowing they were sailing straight into one of the most violent weather events ever recorded. This monster wasn't just any old storm. It was the insane result of a hurricane colliding with a nor'easter and a brutal cold front, all at once. The outcome? A meteorological beast capable of crushing anything in its path. The ocean was on a mission to wipe this boat off the map. Winds howled at over 75 miles per hour, 120 kilometers per hour, tearing through everything. The air pressure dropped like a rock, sparking pure weather chaos. And the waves, dear God, the waves reached over 100 feet, 30 meters high. That's the size of a 10-story building. Each monstrous wave smashed into the Andrea gale with brutal force. The ship was tossed around like a toy in a bathtub. Despite the crew's desperate fight to survive, they could do nothing. The Andrea gale and its 6 crew members were lost to the ocean. Their story later became the basis for the book and movie The Perfect Storm. Click here to watch the next video, and smash that subscribe button to buy me a coffee.